I was excited because I figured, okay, I'm back. I get to see the new look Guardians. Very excited.
On KYC.
On WKYC last night.
It was the perfect culmination of it, yeah.
I thought this is perfect. I'm going to watch this new team just take off like a rocket ship and vault their way into first place and win the American League Central, go on to win the American League and represent the American League in the World Series. And who knows, once we get against the Dodgers, who knows, maybe we can beat the Dodgers.
Get hot at the right time.
Man, was I disappointed last night.
You put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig.
It is still a pig.
And I know it's just one game, but that Guardians offense looked awfully similar.
To test out on you.
All right.
It just hit me like a ton of bricks last night. I asked AI a question, 3 different AI services, and none of them could figure out the answer. Maybe someone at The Athletic could.
All right.
The closest I could get was how many different starting lineups have the Guardians used this year? They've had 115 games.
Okay.
No one could give me a definitive answer. The closest I could get with...
Oh, I can totally get you that answer.
I thought you could. I know ESPN could get it for me.
Stathead.
102 different lineups.
I'm not surprised by that.
I think that's probably about right.
There within lies the problem. I am done with platoon ball. I'm completely done with it.
Well, then you must hate the Adele and low moves because both of those feel like they're going to be platoon players.
Here's the thing, Adele is not a platoon guy.
I think Adele plays every
You think
day.
Adele plays every day?
Well, I don't know. Last night during the telecast, they said he's probably going to platoon. We'll see how he can handle that adjustment. So he might be our test case. He put up pretty good numbers as an everyday player.
Yeah, he should be playing.
Baseball is an everyday sport. And it finally hit me. Why is it? They put up the stats through this year and last year. They're identical, guys. 444 runs. ERA is the same. Record is the same. Batting average, abysmal, is the same. It's stunning to me. Back-to-back years, and we have 30th and 30th offense. And it hit me. I kept asking, why? Why is it that Manzardo starts to go this way and then goes this way? Why is it that Bo Naylor looks like this and then looks like that? They're all playing with the fear of being pulled out of the lineup for any stretch, and maybe now even sent down to Columbus. Baseball is an everyday sport. You get into a rhythm. You have to fight your way through slumps. It's not a 3-day-a-week sport or a 4-day-a-week sport. And I would love for you to do a deep dive on this, Jay, because I know you have the resources at The Athletic to do it. I would love to see where the teams that use the most platooning are offensively. And I'm willing to bet that this isn't the anomaly. This is the rule.
Well, the Guardians last year, I don't know about this year. We're talking to Miles about this last year. They had the platoon advantage more than any other team last year.
When you say platoon advantage, what does that mean?
Righties against lefties. You're right-hander against a lefty.
Well,
you're
left-hander. And that's my point.
Yeah, and they were
being
at the
analytic
bottom.
to death.
Well, I totally agree with that point. Like I hate how much platooning there is that goes on in baseball.
Good. I'm glad you agree with that.
I believe that is front office driven, at least in Cleveland. I don't think that is Stephen Vogt. I think that's above him.
I completely agree with you. This isn't Stephen Vogt.
Yeah.
There's no way. Stephen Vogt got the job because during the interview, they said, look, front office is going to fill out the lineup card. And he wanted his first job.
Yeah.
And it's just a guess. I don't know that for a fact. But
I don't want to put my name on that. But certainly I think that there's heavy influence throughout the organization on how.
I also was asking the question, and if you do a deep dive, you'll be able to bring these numbers to the table and we can look at them. And I don't think this is so much surprising, but the team that has used the fewest lineups would be
the Dodgers.
Of course. Now, when the Indians in 95, 96, 97, Mike Hargrove rolled out of bed, pulled out the lineup sheet from the day before, and handed it in at home plate for the meeting.
He used to say this: the starters are the starters.
The starters are the starters.
For a reason. That's what he said. The starters are starters for a reason.
Now, we have gotten so deep into the lefty-righty matchup that, well, why would you expect lefties to hit lefties when they don't see lefties?
Yeah, I totally listen. It goes back to the switch hitting thing that I wrote about a couple of years ago. Nobody switch hits anymore. Not Americans. American kids do not switch hit.
Once upon a time, we had a lineup loaded with switch hitters.
Yep. American kids don't switch hit. The Dominican, they do.
Sure.
And Puerto Rico, they do.
But we don't teach it anymore.
Because the parents force the kids at that age when they're kids. The parents believe that baseball is their way out. Venezuela, they switch hit.
Sure, that's their lottery ticket.
All through there, yeah. All the kids switch hit. Not here. Here you get now all these platoons.
And it's driving me nuts.
Yeah.
I watched last night. How is Rhys Hoskins our cleanup hitter?
Yeah.
against
Now,
the
here's what
lefty.
happened in last night's game. Okay, aside from the ridiculous throwing error by Arias that kind of opened the floodgates, a good first baseman digs that, no problem.
Yep.
It was a bad throw. I'm not going to let Arias off the hook. It was a terrible throw. But sometimes your first baseman has to cover that.
Got it. He has to make that play.
He has to make that play. If he does, the inning is over. Then, not surprisingly, because from my mindset, I know what I do after that. I overthrow to the next hitter because I'm angry, and you walk them.
Yep.
And then you like, oh, I got to dial in. I can't walk another guy. You groove one. It's a 3-run homer. That's exactly what happened in that inning. It was a meltdown emotionally by the starting pitcher, who I didn't think he had great stuff last night. He just kept throwing the curveball, and it was in the 5 zone all night long. But when your shortstop throws one in the dirt and your first baseman looks like he's playing opposite-handed when he tries to dig it, and then you walk a guy and then you give up a 3-run home run, you can just feel the whole stadium just exhaled. Well, there we go. Our cleanup guy, Rhys Hoskins, came up in the first inning with the bases loaded and nobody out.
Disaster.
Strike 1,
Disaster.
strike 2, strike 3. He comes up the next time, runners at first and second, makes an out. He comes up again with the runner at first base. He left 6 guys on base in 3 at-bats. He was 0 for 3 and finally lifted for a pinch hitter because it was a favorable lefty-righty matchup, of course. Why is this guy in the 4-hole?
Well, I wondered when they made the move for Lowe in our group chat. I thought that might be the end of Hoskins, and they wound up sending down Manzardo.
I did too. I was stunned by that move, by the way.
I thought it could be.
It has to be a lefty. It has to be the platoon thing.
It is. That's exactly what it
Again,
is.
Mike.
Yeah.
I agree.
Every decision.
And Manzardo has hit lefties well throughout his career.
He has, yeah.
I mean, he's not having a great year this year.
But
hitting lefties is not.
No,
been
but
the
you know
issue
what?
for him.
What is DeLauder's a good example. What's DeLauder hitting against lefties?
I have to look
It's
it
through
up.
the roof.
I trust you. I'm not 100% trying to split.
Anecdotally, he just crushes lefties in my mind. I don't know what the splits are, but this nonsense of, oh, there's a left-handed pitcher up, we've got to have a right-handed batter. There's a right-handed pitcher up, we've got to have a left-handed batter. It's led to 2 straight years of us being the least productive offense in Major League Baseball.
Can I take it?
I've seen enough proof.
Can I take it one step further?
Sure,
too?
I'd love you to.
And I'll defer to you guys on this, but not only are you mixing and matching players to platoon lefty versus righty, but because you're doing that, the lineup changes almost nightly in terms of not just the players, but where they're hitting in the lineup.
And sometimes where they're playing in the field.
Exactly. We saw Stephen Kwan go from leadoff down to 7, down to 9, now back up to leadoff. We've seen Bazana go from the 4-hole. He was hitting, the 6-hole last night, right? He was leadoff for a while. He's bounced all around. Angel Martinez had a little stint in the leadoff spot, moved down to the 2-hitter hole. Jose, 2, 3, back to 2, back to 3 when he's played. When you talk about a sport like baseball, which is a consistency sport, right? Jay, you want your guys to play every day. The starters are the starters for a reason. Not only do you want them playing, but I feel like there should be a little more consistency to where they're hitting in the lineup so there gets to be more of a rhythm, more of a groove, and you get locked into the certain mindset because if you're hitting leadoff or you're hitting second versus you're hitting 7th, 8th, 9th, there is a different mentality you have going into each of those at-bats, and it feels like no one on Cleveland has been able to get into, other than Chase, who's been the real one staple in that 2-hole for the Guardians in the lineup. Like, that's been the one thing, and there's no surprise he may have been their best offensive player this season. He has been their best offensive player this season. That not just the platooning that drives me crazy, it's the order in which the lineup is changing to maximize
because you do have a mindset. As a leadoff
platoon.
hitter, you're looking at more pitches.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're setting the table. You're doing things differently. Kwan's been the 1, he's been the 9. From Earl to Pearl, DeLauder's hit 360 against lefties.
With an OPS of 919.
Sheesh.
Okay, so
Lefty on lefty crime.
it just baffles my mind.
Well, if they make it to a short side platoon,
they're going to kill him.
that's
They'll
really
ruin him.
disappointing. I have a hard time believing that's how it's going to go.
Well, it was said last night in the broadcast. Let's see how he does as a platoon guy, because he's not a platoon guy. He's an everyday guy.
He's not a platoon guy.
He's not. He needs to play. Everybody needs to play every day. Who are your best 9? Figure it out and put them out there. And give them an extended body of work before you pull the trigger and send them down. So what's happened to Manzardo's psyche right now? What is he thinking down in Columbus? Probably the same thing Bo Naylor was thinking. Wow, I thought I was here for good.
Yeah.
Now he's down. What's going to happen to Kyle Manzardo? Is he going to be shipped off sometime
I
next
actually
year?
started to write something on that. He's in a weird spot now because Ralphie Velasquez is coming.
Yes. So how do you leapfrog?
He's next up, yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. Again, I think Hoskins should have been DFA'd when you made the move for Lowe.
Stunned he's still on the roster.
Lowe will be a rental. I don't think he's back next year.
No,
because you have Velasquez and Manzardo. But are you gonna allow both of them to be in the majors at the same time? I don't know.
I hesitate to throw these numbers out there because said it wasn't completely certain, the AI that gave me these numbers, but it said I'm fairly certain this is the number. 102 different starting lineups in 115 games.
I could find that out.
They've also said they've used the same lineup 4 times.
Jeez.
4 times. Here's another stunner. But I plugged in Arias for an example because I know he's been all over in the lineup. He's hit 2nd, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think they missed a game here was the cleanup because I feel like Arias was the cleanup in a game once this year. Because I remember saying, what is this guy doing cleanup? If that's the case, he's hit 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th.
To my point about the inconsistency in setting a lineup, you have dudes bouncing around every which way you could possibly go, which just changes the mindset on an at-bat to at-bat basis or game-to-game basis, making it harder to get in a rhythm.
Yes.
Fewer guys in a rhythm. It's no surprise they're 30th again in OPS, 30th again in basically any offensive category.
Meaningful offensive categories, they're 30th.
Zach Meisel had a great article right before the deadline talking about how this team really invested in the internal development of players and why, I forget the exact words he used, but you can't just celebrate AL Central championships. You want real championships.
Well, at some point,
and how they had to make moves to improve the offense. And last year at this point, the offense was 29th, and this year was 30th. So
it's mind-boggling.
Had it taken that step forward.
I'm pretty sure our payroll in the 90s was bigger than it is today.
It's close.
Now,
Jay, check this out.
If you just take that in a vacuum, and you consider how much the salaries have risen from the mid-90s to today,
it's unbelievable.
And they paid more for their baseball players in the 90s than they are now. It's inexcusable.
Yeah.
It's not. It's unbelievable, but it's also inexcusable. What do you have, Earl?
So according to Baseball Reference, as of today, August 5th, 2026, the Cleveland Guardians have used 93 different starting lineups through their first 107 games, which means they've roughly changed out their lineup 87% of the time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's the results.
Crazy.
I mean, you get what you ask for, and I'm telling you, I like the front office. I do. I like Antonetti. I think he's a great baseball man. I feel like they need to step away from the calculator and drop their Ivy League mentality, I'm smarter than you, and let's, instead of beating teams with our minds, let's beat them with a talented lineup that you can roll out there every single day, come hell or high water. You know when you show up at the ballpark that you're hitting third and you're playing left.
Yeah.
You know when you show up at the ballpark where you're being It's a pop quiz every day. I mean, help me on this, because I was thinking there's got to be a reason for this. Is it splits against this pitcher? How is Rhys Hoskins your cleanup hitter?
I have no explanation. I mean, Rocchio is batting cleanup, which I would take Rocchio over.
I would
Hoskins
take Rocchio too. At least Rocchio makes contact.
But Rocchio's not a cleanup hitter either.
He's not.
But the way that the lineups, we've talked about this before, and you and Bull, I think, disagreed on where to bat Jose. Teams now are batting their best hitters too.
I get that.
And Judge bats 2. Jordan bats 2nd.
I get that.
So guys who used to be cleanup hitters 20, 30 years ago now bat 2nd in the lineup, and that just sort of shuffles everything around.
I get that.
I don't know what the protocol is.
I would have loved to have been in
batter.
the meeting room when they were filling out the lineup card, and whoever's in there, I don't know, but someone said, I've got a great idea.
But you know what? You've touched on something that I think speaks to a broader point in this. And I'm analytics. I know. I do like analytics.
And I am too, even though Bull thinks I'm the anti-analytics guy. I'm for the proper use of analytics.
But there's something interesting here that you're touching on with, like, you want to show up, you want to bat third every day, you know where you are. That's one of the biggest complaints I have with the Browns and the way that it just feels sometimes like Andrew Berry has no human touch in how he builds these things.
He's doing things the same way.
And like, you take Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, then you take Shador in the 5th round. And you just cut the legs out of the guy that the organization wanted in the first place. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
And that's just one example. I probably
there are
picked
others.
the worst possible one I could have picked.
That was the worst possible.
No, but there are others.
But you are right. Yeah.
See, I don't even think it was the worst possible one you could pick, because I think that one really strikes. You look at that after the fact and you go, wait a minute. When you play chess, you're moving a move or two ahead. You're playing a move or two ahead. That looked like a checkers move.
No, it was a good example. It's the one you bring up that's going to everything
I
we said for
know,
the last
I
20
know.
minutes is now irrelevant because you
I
mentioned
know,
Dylan
I
Gabriel
know.
and Shador Sanders is my point.
But it's just when you go so heavy on analytics sometimes as an organization,
You can miss the big picture.
You just sometimes it feels like some of these organizations lose the human touch or the human feel or the human emotion.
That's my whole point.
Of how a guy is going to react to a certain situation that they're put in.
100%. I don't know what's going to happen with Bo Naylor. I really don't. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the return of Bo Naylor.
Very well could be.
Because I think him going down wrecked his entire psyche. And he needed a change of scenery, and the Guardians were clearly done with them. They've got other catchers in the pipeline. I get all of that. But we'll find out in the long run what Bo Naylor is, because I think the Brewers, they need a catcher next year.
Yeah.
So I think he's probably going to be their everyday catcher. I'll be watching his numbers very closely to see what he does. And this nonsense of, 87% of the time you have a different starting lineup, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
And I don't know any team that's had success with that yet. We've proven 2 years in a row you can be 30th with that mindset. We've proven that with guys that are pretty good players.
Yeah.
Kyle Manzardo is not a AAA player, but when you use him the way we've used him, he's now a AAA player. All right. Angel Hano. He's another youngster that's in the pipeline that is on his way to the major leagues.